So, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure All Star Battle R was just recently announced for fall 2022 at modern platforms, and it was just one of those things that I really wasn't expecting, but I'm super happy got announced. I'm a big fan of the original PS3 game, so I want to talk about my thoughts and initial first impressions, and who I think will be joining the roster. I'll get into that in just a little bit. So like I said, I'm a big fan of the PS3 version of the game. I still think it holds up really well. Graphically, I think it's fine. It holds up completely, fairly. But it would not hurt to do some touch-ups, some polishes, just to make it look even better. Because the art style, obviously being inspired by JoJo's, because it's a JoJo's game, so strong. Um, so the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to personally is the gameplay changes. So they showed that they're going to be doing like a 2-on-2 mechanic where it's kind of like Marvel vs. Capcom if you've ever played that, where one character, let's say for example Speedwagon here, does a combo, then you can tag Jonathan in and he'll be able to either perform another move or continue the combo and swap in. And I feel like this is going to play into the other part of the game that did definitely need improvement, and that was the frame rate and performance speed. So, All-Star Battle originally on PS3 was 30 FPS, and I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing for a fighting game to have a slower pace. I know that a lot of people do disagree with that, but I think it just kind of depends on the game's combat, and I think it's fine to have a slower, more methodical gameplay style. But I feel like it was slow and not in really a good or deliberate way, and that was to do with the frame rate as well. So like you could feel in some places when it got busy, the PS3 like struggling to keep this game at a stable frame rate. So I think that's going to benefit a lot from assumably a 60 FPS upgrade, and maybe even higher on PC as well, who knows. Three characters have already been leaked for the game. So the original game had 41 characters, including DLC. They've confirmed that all the DLC from the PS3 version will be available at launch, and they're going to be adding some new characters because they said that 50 characters would be available. I believe they said the 50 characters would be available at launch, so I don't know whether that means they're making new ones and then more will be coming as DLC, or if it's just these 50. I'd be fine with either one, honestly. But what is very strange is the character Bao was not shown in the announcement trailer. So Bao from Araki's previous manga was in the original game as DLC, and he was not part of the character portraits at all in the announcement trailer. So that means it could mean a couple of things. What it probably does mean, unfortunately, is Bao's cut, which is the worst option, and I hope that's not what they do, because although Bao's not from JoJo, he's from Araki's previous manga, he's still an Araki character, and he had a really fun gameplay style, and it would just be kind of a waste to throw a made character away, really, for little to no reason, in my opinion. Or what they could be doing is, I hope they definitely don't, because it would be really scummy on the publisher's part, and that would be to sell the character back again as DLC. Like, people who had the original game, they've already paid for it, and they'd want us to pay again for the same character. That would be, like, beyond fucked up. So I really hope to God they're not doing that. Or, what I would find to be much more acceptable is he's going to be added as free DLC, where if they decide to just do him on his own as like a free download, or if they do, say for example they are going to do DLC of later characters, they do like a fighters pass where if you buy the pass you get Bao for free or for like a teeny tiny fee. I would personally be fine with that, but I hope that's not the route they go down. I just hope he is added as free DLC. So that's my initial impressions. Like I say, I'm really excited. I think the gameplay changes could be very beneficial, and make the game even better. But now I want to talk about the playable roster. Now, 3 characters have already been leaked, but I say 3. 2 have officially been leaked. 1 technically hasn't, but is very heavily implied to be in the game. So that being Trish and Prosciutto from Part 5, Golden Wind. Again, oh, by the way, spoilers for all of JoJo for this. All Star Battle and All Star Battle R features every single part of JoJo, so spoilers for all parts if you're not caught up. Trish is returning from Eyes of Heaven. Prosciutto's never been in a game before, apart from just as like a background character. He's never been playable. So that's really fun. It's good to know that they are adding brand new characters and they're not all just going to be ported from Eyes of Heaven. Obviously it'll work different because Eyes of Heaven is a 3D game. All Star Battle is like a 2.5D one-on-one or now 2-on-2 fighting game. So obviously the characters would work different, but I'm glad that, they're doing a mix. Some characters are returning from the next game, others are completely new, so it's good to know that both are on the table there. So now what I want to talk about is the heavily implied character, and that is Poochy. Poochy was in the original game, he was in All Star Battle, but he was just one character. Now, how Poochy worked is he started off in his default appearance with Whitesnake as his initial stand, and he could pull out the green baby and recite the 14 words. And there's a little gauge at the bottom, like little purple diamonds that show you how many words you've been able to say. And once Poochy says the 14 words, he's able to make Sea Moon, and then his level 2 super is getting made in heaven. Now, in the screenshots, the pre-release screenshots, all characters have the exact same portrait as their All-Star Battle portrait, apart from any colors and any color changes to fit with their anime appearance. Poochy has an entirely new pose, and the 14 words diamond sheet is completely gone. That is not on his UI anymore. So that makes me think they've probably split up Poochy into two characters like they did for Eyes of Heaven. So they probably just did Vanilla Poochy, where it's just him and Whitesnake, and then that's hard to say, New Moon Poochy, who starts off with Sea Moon and then can acquire Maiden Heaven as his level 2. I am quite a big fan of this change, honestly, because it lets them expand on both characters' movesets more. But at the same time, I can also get it being a little bit annoying for people knowing that one of the new characters is, already in the game, basically. So I can get why people would be annoyed, but it's not like we're paying for that specific character. To be fair, he's just coming with the game, and I can definitely see why they'd want to make this change. It's completely fair. I mean, realistically, in a real close quarters hectic match, you're not going to be able to pull out Sea Moon, and that just makes Poochy a much lesser character because he doesn't have a level 2 when he's on Whitesnake. It's just the level 1, so that makes him a lot harder to get shit done with. So it's probably beneficial to Poochy as a character in the game to get this update. But now what I want to talk about are characters who I feel would be able to appear in the game. So I'm going to try and talk about at least one character for every part, and then I'll kind of go over my top 7 in no particular order that I think are most likely to get it out of everyone I've talked about. So of part 1, the only character I could really think is realistically going to get in is Speedwagon. He's the only other big part 1 character that wasn't in the original All-Star Battle, and they've got his his assets from Eyes of Heaven, so it'll be easy to it'll probably be relatively easy to translate him over. Plus him being a brawler, his Olga street fighting skills, I could see him easily making the cut and fitting very naturally into the roster. The only other characters I could think of for part 1 are the 2 knights, Tarkus and Bruford. This is something that my friend suggested, and they would be really cool for the tag team format, but I feel like just because they're doing a 2-on-2 mechanic now doesn't mean they're gonna put in 2-in-1 characters. I mean, I could be wrong, but I really wouldn't see them using 2 of their 7 left slots. Well, 7 because we know Trish and Prosciutto's getting in. Could be potentially 8 if Poochy is split into 2 characters. So I guess I'll use top 8 actually, but I couldn't see them using 2 roster slots for Tarkus and Bruford, considering in the grand scheme of all of JoJo, they're pretty relatively obscure characters, so that's fair. But I think Speedwagon, we'd probably be able to expect him in. He's very popular, he's a popular character, he's Speedwagon, everyone loves Speedwagon, so I could very, very easily see him making the cut. Out of part 2, Again, really the only character I could see realistically making the roster is Stroheim. Again, this will be a returning character from Eyes of Heaven. He's popular, haha, funny German science man. Um, I hated how he played in Eyes of Heaven, so I'd hope they... Again, obviously they'd have to mix up how they play a lot from the 3D game, but I hated playing Stroheim in Eyes of Heaven, so I hope that he's changed quite a bit. And the only other character I could think of for Battle Tendency would be Santana, but again, it's such a minor character, I wouldn't really see them bothering with Santana. He's just too obscure for them to bother, in my opinion. So out of those two, I'd say Stroheim is pretty likely. Santana, I'd be very, very, very surprised if he managed to get in. Now, out of part 3, I'm going to kind of separate these into two groups. So I'm going to use returning characters from Heritage and returning characters from Eyes of Heaven. So from Heritage, I'd personally really like them to add Midler. I don't think they would realistically add her, but I think it would be cool considering how unique her design is in that game, and I like her in in Heritage of the Future. I think she's got a really cool moveset, so it would be cool if they add her in, but I don't think it's very likely. The only other character I could think of is Alessi, and Devo the Cursed. Devo would be really cool. I feel like he could transfer like relatively one-to-one from Heritage. But again, I feel like these two characters are too obscure and little-known villains to be realistically considered. The only thing I'd really want from Alessi is to see all the characters as babies. I think it'd be really funny if they get like a new model for every character as a baby. But that would be way, way too much work. So because of that, I don't think Alessi's gonna get in. Also, I hope he doesn't, because Alessi's a fucking freak. I do not like him. And now I'm going to talk about returning characters from Eyes of Heaven. So that is Mariah, Pet Shop, and Duel, and that's it really. Out of these, I'd personally like Mariah to get in. I think she would be really, really good in terms of like a bait and punish kind of trap setting character, like her putting a what does she use again? This is off the cuff if you haven't noticed. This is completely 100% unscripted. Oh yeah, she uses like a socket, and then you touch the socket and you get magnetized. So that would be really, really cool to translate. I feel like she'd work really well in All Star Battle's combat style. So I feel like she would be the most likely to make a return. And one kind of wildcard character I personally think will be really cool to see is Death 13. So I could really see them just having the actual stand. You know, you don't really see the baby anywhere. But I could see them doing like just the stand on its own, Death 13, making him a character. I don't think, this is probably the least likely one I've said so far, but I just personally think it would be cool because Death 13 is one of my favourite stands from Part 3. So I would love to see Death 13 make it in somehow as a playable character, but I doubt it, that it would happen. Part 4 was one of the hardest parts for me to come up with a playable character, honestly. The only one I can really think of is Yukako. I feel like Yukako's decently likely. Again, I feel like she would work well in All Star Battle's combat style. They've got her assets from Eyes of Heaven. But she was really the only big Part 4 character I could think that would fit into like a fighting game. The only other characters I could really, really think of was Yuya Fungami, Highway Star. Again, I don't know how his stand would translate into a one-on-one fighting game, like how weird it is. I guess it would just have to be in its humanoid shape at all times. But him and Yukako are the only other really combat characters I could think would translate in any way at all into a fighting game. The only other character I personally want to see is Mikitaka the Alien. I don't think he would work in a fighting game at all, but I would just like to see him because I like him personally. I think he's cool. But I think really they got in every important character from Part 4 that they could realistically put in the game. I couldn't see them adding anyone else, to be honest, apart from, like I say, maybe Yukako. So we'll move on to part 5. So 2 characters have already been leaked from part 5, Trish and Prosciutto. I'd be very, very surprised if we get any more part 5 characters, but I want them to add Ebakil so much. He's always left out of these games. He's only in the Ventoreo PS2 game. Ebakil's my second favourite member of the team, from Poochy. I just want him in so much. I want Gothdad to be able to punch Jono on PlayStation and Xbox and presumably Switch and PC. I want him to have that. I want him to enjoy beating up Jono in this fighting game. And really, he's the only character I really, really want to see, unless they can somehow make Doppio a playable character. I don't think they would. I think that is kind of out of the question, making Doppio, considering Diavolo's always there. But also, it's just something I would like. It's just something I would like to see. So why not put Doppio in there? Please. From part 6, you've got a few choices. So there's Weather and Foo Fighters. They're 2 big shoo-ins to get in. I feel like one of the 2, if not both, definitely will get in. And again, out of just stand users in the part, there's not really a lot of straight one-to-one combat stands that I could really think of them adding. I've seen some people really want Gwess in, but people thirst for Gwess for some reason. I think that's the only reason why people want to see her in. But I really couldn't see them adding any characters other than FF and Weather Report, to be honest. Maybe one of Dio's sons. I could see them maybe adding Donatello or Ikiel. But I think out of just kind of the minor antagonists, those would probably be the only ones that we'd see. But I'd love to be proven wrong. I feel like obviously with the Part 6 anime currently in production, it's probably as good of a time as any to have more Part 6 representation. But I just don't think there's a lot of characters that you can realistically pull from. Maybe make, what's her name, Miu Miu? I could see her being kind of like a semi-clone of Poochy, where she has like the locking moves mechanic, but instead of a stand disc, it's like, it's memory. But again, her stand isn't very combat oriented, so she wouldn't translate well into a fighting game. But off the top of my head, those are the only characters I could really think of for Part 6. Part 7, Diego. Again, Diego's a very fan favorite character. Whether they add Diego and alternate Diego, I personally doubt they'd add alternate Diego. They'd probably just go with normal Diego, to be honest. But there's quite a few characters from Part 7 that I think could get in, and I'd personally love to see. Sandman, Weka Pipo, Magenta, Ringo Road again, like I say, even the alternate Diego, Hot Pants, there are quite a lot of characters from Part 7, Blackmore as well, I've just thought of now, Blackmore would be cool. There's just so many interesting stand users in Part 7 that I think could translate really, really well into All Star Battle, and there's just a lot of that I'd love to see, personally. So out of those, I'd say Diego's probably the most likely, but I'd personally really like to see Hot Pants as well. And from Part 8, now Part 8 just finished recently. I could see them giving Gappy another moveset, because when All-Star Battle came out, there was like, I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but I think maybe like 5 chapters in Part 8 by the time All-Star Battle came out, so they really didn't have a lot to work with. So I could see them either making a Gappy clone, like Gappy with his existing moveset in All-Star Battle, and then like Gappy with his memories, you know, him finding out who he is. So I could see them maybe doing that. I personally wouldn't want them to. I'd personally like them just to make a different moveset for Gappy, considering everything with Part 8 being over. But I could see them doing that as well, having another Gappy as like a clone character. Joshu, people like Joshu for some reason. I personally can't stand him. I hate Joshu. I could see him being added as a character. He's probably the second most likely in Part 8 to get added, in my opinion. But I personally hope they don't. I hope he rots, honestly. but I could see him being in. And three big characters I could also really see getting in is Toru, Jobin, and Kentucky. Is his name Kentucky Damo? I know his surname is Damo. Vitamin C, the stand user. I guess if they want to, they could also add either Kira or Josefumi. But I just don't know why. I just personally don't see them doing that. I just don't feel like that is likely. But out of all of those, Toru is definitely the most likely in my opinion. Because he is the main villain, or at least Wonder Review. I don't see them adding Toru without Wonder Review or vice versa, but he is definitely the most likely to be added. He is the main villain. You've got to have the main villain with the main JoJo. That's just kind of the rules. It's just kind of the rules, really. It'd be really crazy not to have him in the game, and it would feel really weird. But Jobin, I could also definitely see them adding him, because he's a very important character in Speed King. Compared to a lot of the other stands in Part 8, is relatively combat oriented in comparison, so I don't think it will be too much trouble to add him personally. Yeah, those are all the characters I could personally think of, and who I think are most likely to be added in All Star Battle are. So I'm gonna go over the top 7 I feel like are the most likely in no particular order. So I think Speedwagon is pretty much guaranteed to be in. I think Diego Brando is almost guaranteed to be in. I think Stroheim is also pretty much guaranteed. I think Weather Report and or FF are guaranteed to be in. I will count them as 2. Actually, no, you know what? No, I'm going to cheat a little bit and count as 1, so I think I'm on 5 now. I think a Part 7 villain aside from Diego, or Part 7 character. Most likely Hot Pants. I'm going to place my bets on Hot Pants personally, but I think someone other than Diego will also be included. And finally, I think Toru will definitely be in the game. I'm not so sure about Joshu. I think probably personal bias aside, he probably will get in. But personally, if they're going to add one Jojolian character, it should just be Toru. You can keep Joshu out, it's fine. And the last character I want to talk about is kind of an honourable mention, I guess, because realistically we don't have any way of knowing at this moment in time, but I've seen the idea floated around online and it would be really cool, so I just kind of want to talk about it briefly, is the Part 9 protagonist, the protagonist of JoJo Lands. Now, at the time of recording, Part 9 has not been released or made yet, as far as I know. It's been announced that it's going to happen sometime in 2022, I believe, but we don't actually have any information about JoJo Lands as of yet. And it could very well be that potentially by fall of this year, we'll have a couple chapters of Part 9, and like they did with JoJolian, with the original game, they have the Part 9 protagonist as a character to kind of promote the new release of that manga coming out. Again, I can't really put this as an official kind of speculation choice, for lack of a better term, because obviously Part 9 is not out yet. And we don't know if it is going to be out by the time All Star Battle releases, because obviously these things do take time to make, both making a character and making manga. These things take a lot of time, so we have no way of knowing if this is something that's planned or something that they are planning on doing later down the road. But I think it's a really fun idea, and it is certainly possible. It is something that has the potential of happening, so I'm going to put the Part 9 protagonist as an honourable mention here, but like I say, we've got no way of knowing right at this second. So yeah, that was my very rambly, off-the-cuff video about All-Star Battle R. I just wanted to make a video talking about it, just because the announcement caught me so off guard, and it got me so hyped. Like I say, I love this game, and I can't wait to play it when it comes out. So yeah, a bit different. But all the same, thank you for watching. Hopefully you're excited for the game as I am. Tell me, you know, your thoughts. Have you played All-Star Battle for the first time? before, or is the modern port going to be for the first time for you? Please let me know. So yeah, until my next video, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.